Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to President Nygren's Lunch and Learn. So happy to have you all. Today, we are going to be focusing on voter registration in all of our three states, Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. And we have some great individuals who are very familiar with the process in each jurisdiction who are going to be presenting today. So just to friendly reminder, you guys have seen me before. My name is Catherine Belzowski. I am the Assistant Attorney General for the Economic Community Development Unit at the Navajo Nation Department of Justice. One of the issues that our unit works on is federal and state voting issues and assisting the counties and their respective jurisdictions and trying to make sure that all Navajos have the ability to register to vote and then are able to actually vote in the elections. And we have a little election coming up in November. You guys may be familiar with it. And so we've been working very closely with a lot of our county partners, state partners, and then nonprofit partners, just to make sure that our T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and everyone's on the same page and able to access their rights, the right to vote. So we're really excited. We think that I'm happy to have all the speakers today. They all do great work in their respective jurisdictions to protect Navajo's right to vote and to encourage access to the vote. So again, today because the voter registration deadline is quickly approaching and we want to make sure that everyone who is registered. We were hoping to provide this information to you guys so that everyone knows, depending on which jurisdiction they reside in, how they can get themselves registered in time for November. So I am going to pass the mic. We are going to start with our I don't want to say our favorite, because they're all our favorites, but definitely one of our probably most talked about, at least on these Lunch and Learn panels, our Arizona jurisdiction, just because there are a lot more hurdles that our Navajo voters unfortunately have to jump through in regards to registration to vote in Arizona than in our respective jurisdictions. So we just want to make sure all you Arizona voters know what those hurdles are and what you do need to provide, especially because there have been a lot of changes and in the recent past on voter registration. So I am going to turn the floor over to Ms. Natalia Sells and allow her to explain those to you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Yate Natalia Sells in a shek was a fun in the shlin, Nashasha Bashas chain, Toj Ini Dasha Che, Kiani Dashanelle. I am I'm recently the Arizona Senior Campaign Manager for All Voting is Local. I'm also originally from the communities of Chaprock, New Mexico and Tisnaspas, Arizona, and I am registered to vote with Apache County, especially in my community because that's where my home community of Tisnaspas is located in. And so a little bit of background information about me. I recently graduated from ASU Law and then found my way working into this voting space. So just to give a little background about the organization I'm part of as well. So All Voting is Local, works with numerous partners with the goal of advancing fair and inclusive rules on voter registration, helping remove barriers that make it more difficult for people to vote, and to ensure that every vote counts. This is especially true for a lot of our tribal communities as well. We operate in 8 different states. Arizona is one of those states. We also operate in Florida, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And we just kind of, each state is different. And as Catherine had mentioned, Arizona has a lot of different rules and regulations that kind of come up that kind of make things a little bit more difficult to register to vote. But there's a lot of advocates on the ground who are working to make sure that Navajo members are able to still register and exercise that right to vote. So big shout out, October 7th is the last day to register to vote in Arizona. So kind of mark that on your calendars as well. Navajo Nation is a little different when it comes. Navajo Nation spans into 3 different counties in Arizona. So you have Apache, Coconino, and Navajo County. And each of those counties have their kind of different rules and regulations as well when it comes to election day. But in general, there are 3 ways to register to vote in Arizona. The big one and probably a more accessible one is also registering to vote online. But to register to vote online, you must have an Arizona driver's license or an Arizona ID to be able to register online. But you can also register on a paper form. So you can either use the Arizona state voter registration form, but that one you have to provide proof of citizenship. And this can be done by providing your CIB you can provide your CIB to be able and enter that number in to fulfill that requirement to get the full Arizona ballot so that you can vote with the state of Arizona, the local ordinances, as well as for the federal elections as well. But you can also print out the generally available federal voter registration form as well. And that one, if you don't provide proof of citizenship on that one, but it's still highly recommended that you do, then you will only be allowed to vote in the federal election. But if you're ever confused about what your status is with your voter registration, you can always go online and check, enter in your information to see where your polling location is located at, to request a mail-in ballot, sign up as a poll worker, or check the status of your voter registration. And that will tell you if your voter registration is invalid or if there's other things that are needed, or if you need to update it as well. And so it's very easy. You can just go online to the, you can go online to the Arizona Secretary of State, Arizona Voter Information Portal, and it has all those links on there for you to be able to check your voter registration status, update that information as well. If some counties require you are precinct voting places, so those are areas where you are only allowed to vote in certain precincts. So Apache County is one of those, for example. And you can check what polling stations you can vote at by logging into that Arizona voting portal from the Secretary of State's office as well. But if you're like me and your address is very rural, then and it doesn't populate on there correctly, you can always you can always call your county recorder's office and ask them what precinct you're voting at or what your polling location is. And I would highly recommend that for everyone, especially if you have a very rural address as well. And so that is also a great tip for people to help out their grandparents as well, who may not be so sure, because come election day, you don't want to be struggling with trying to find your polling location on that day, especially when some of these are located miles and miles away from your residence. But yeah, so once again, anytime that you, but yeah, so a lot of this can be done online, but if you ever have any questions, like we said, you can always call your county recorder's office as well. And so depending on which county you live in, whether in Arizona side, for example, you can call any of those counties' recorder office. But the big date for everyone to remember is October 7th. So that's the last day you can register online or mail in your voter registration, and it has to be postmarked for that day. But with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back over to Catherine.
Thanks, Natalia. So just a couple of follow-up questions on your presentation. You said that people need to provide if they provide their CIB number, that will be adequate to prove their citizenship. And just to note for people, this is a new requirement. This is one of our fun new things that were given to us by Arizona. So if you've previously registered to vote, you haven't had to do this, but new dawn. So this is something new for our people. And so Natalia, do they have to provide their actual CIB paperwork, or can they just provide a number?
I believe they can just provide, let's see, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe they could just provide a number, correct?
Yes. So you don't actually need to bring in your CIB paperwork when you're registering to vote, and you don't have to send that into the county, but you just have to indicate on the registration form your CIB number. So just FYI, don't feel like you have to gather up all your documents on that one. And then I did want to confirm, Natalia, just something you said. It just has to be voter registration forms have to be postmarked by October 7th, right? They don't have to be actually in the county's possession by October 7th, correct?
No, it can be postmarked, but just keep in mind, like some post offices, like not to call out my community, but Tisnas Post, they postmark everything for that day by noon. So make sure you kind of understand what your post office's rules are, because anything after noon in Tisnas Post is usually postmarked for the next day. And that's just because that's when their mail goes out.
Right. So, make sure if you guys do plan to register to vote by mail, make sure that when your post office is going to postmark the date. You can also drop off. I will say there is Coconino County has a office in Tuba City. Apache County has offices in Ganado, Fort Defiance. If you live in Tisnos Pass and you want to just fill out a voter registration form in Ganado or give it to the office in Chinle, because that's maybe where you work, that's 100% acceptable. So make sure, and the counties may not 100% like that I'm saying this, but I will say if you in Tuba City and you live in Tisnos Pass, you can drop off. Well, no, this should be fine. You can drop it off in Tuba City. Sorry, I just want to that it's with ballots. That's more. It causes the confusion, not the voter registration forms. I apologize. So right, so you could, Natalia, even though you live in Tisnos Pass, you could drop your registration at the office in Tuba City, and that would be accepted. Correct?
Yes.
Awesome. And then you talked a little bit about how individuals indicate where their residence is. Do you mind just kind of going over how can a Navajo individual indicate where they reside on a voter registration form in Arizona?
Yeah, so you can give just kind of a general description of where you live, of where your residence is located at. So it doesn't have to be, I know Arizona's requires a physical address, and our physical address is kind of typically BIE road number 1234. And you can also provide a physical kind of landmark, for example. So saying southwest of Tisnas Pass Community School, a quarter mile away southwest of that school. So just kind of giving a general kind of physical description of the location of your residence is adequate enough for providing that physical residence on your application as well. But if you're wanting to look it up online, in my case, look it up online of where your the status of your voter registration, or kind of looking it up online, it doesn't always populate. So in those cases, you might want to call the recorder's office on some of that information.
And just know, if you do a quarter mile south of Tisnos Pass Chapter House, just everyone is aware, what the county will do is they will just draw a straight line a mile south. They'll just do a complete straight line. So let's say what you really meant is a mile south on road, BIA road, 5. I don't even know the roads out there, so I won't pretend to make a complete fool of myself. But so if you guys make sure that you guys know that the more descriptive you are in describing your residence, the more accurate the placement will be. Overall, it may not be an issue. You should still be, even if the resident isn't exactly where where your actual resident is, where the county places you, they're still going to provide you a ballot. They're still going to let you vote. Your house may just be in a different precinct. So that's again, the importance of checking on your voter registration, right? As Natalia stated, to make sure that you know where your house got placed and then what precinct they've assigned you. All the counties, even the precinct-based ones, should provide you the option to vote a correct ballot, even if you go to the wrong precinct on election day. I think it's always best to try to get the precinct right, but if for some reason you guys end up going to the wrong one, they should still give you a ballot, a normal ballot to vote, but we're just trying to make everyone's life easier. And so again, with all the new requirements, Natalia, that have been put in place by Arizona, do people need to re-register to vote this election cycle, or can they just use their same registration based on their previous years?
So the times when you have to all right, can you repeat the question? My apologies.
Yeah, because there's new requirements like the need to provide proof of citizenship for new voters this year. Do people, like, let's say I registered to vote in 2000 and I never provided that proof. Do I need to re-register?
Not for this election round, but you're going to want to provide that proof in the near future. Mm-hmm. If you've been able to vote with your full ballot, then it should be fine. But all in all, please check your voter registration to see if there's the documents that you need to provide so you can get that corrected as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. But the only times when you really have to change your voter registration is at whether your address changes, your name changes, or if you decide to switch party affiliations. Those would be the time to update your voter registration.
Yeah. So if you've been able to vote, if you've registered in the past and you've been able to vote just fine in previous elections, you should be okay for this election. And again, if you've identified your native status on other voter registrations, you should be fine for this one. So there's not a need to re-register to be able to vote. You should be fine to vote in November. So if you feel, and I would just note, the more times you fill out a voter registration form, the more confused the county is going to be. So we try to make sure, just try to do it on an as needed basis.
So, there's no need to, as Catherine said, to submit multiple applications. If you register to vote here.
Yeah. Sometimes I think people feel like they'll register 10 times, they'll be just in case, but the county will just become more confused and they'll put you on a suspended list and then you can't vote. So if you have filled out multiple voter registration forms this year, because I know there's a lot of people doing the good work on Navajo Nation in Arizona trying to register our voters. So please, make sure that if you have any questions, like Nana said, just check with the counties, call the counties, check the websites. They are 100% committed to getting you guys registered correctly, and they will help change or make changes that needed to be made so that you guys are able to vote. So anything else, Natalia, before we move on to New Mexico?
No, I have nothing else, but just remember October 7th, each state has a different voter registration deadline, and Arizona's is October 7th. So keep that in mind.
All right. Thank you, Natalia. All right. Let's move on to New Mexico. All right. And so we are very happy to be joined first time lunch and learner, Alta Chavez from New Mexico, Executive Director of the Native American. Alta, I always get the name. I confuse my letters. Neva. Thank you. And she has been working with the Navajo. She has been working on the Navajo Nation for years. And so we're really happy. Our organization, you guys may have seen them out in past elections doing some poll watching. And I know they're going to be doing some poll watching in New Mexico this election cycle. So we're really happy to have her here to kind of talk about some of the New Mexico, because they've also, I think, had some recent changes, but in a more positive way. So she's going to go over some of those voter registration changes for New Mexico and just how you guys can register to vote. So Alta, just turn over to you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Yat Shea Atsa Chavez Yenishe, Bit Agni Nishle, Kis Ani Bashachin, Nake Dene Dashache, Kis Ani Dashanella. It's good to see everybody today. I am the executive director for NAVA, and our mission really is to unite community stakeholders to actively improve the quality of life of Native American communities and really to protect the continuity of Native American cultures. We work a lot in civic engagement, nonpartisan, as well as environmental justice in the greater Navajo Nation area. So our offices, our main headquarters is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but we do have an office on Main Street in Farmington. And I'm going to just go over a couple of things with you all. If we could bring up the toolkit, these things are available on the New Mexico side. So I'm not sure if I can share it. Just trying to bring it up there. Kevin, if you can bring up one of my slides, that'd be great. Great. Thank you so much. So I just want to preface by saying all of the chapter houses on the New Mexico side, you can request this by sending me an email. My email address is ahtza, AHTZA, at NAEVA, NAEVA.org. And you can receive any of these things that I will be showing today. By next Wednesday, we will have some available at our office in Farmington. That address is 665 West Main Street. We're in Unit C, right off Main Street, 87401. This is a tribal toolkit that we have available for our chapter houses. This is an example of the table of contents. And really, we put this together so our tribal leaders kind of know some of the things that are happening in our state. Here in the introduction, you'll see that on the New Mexico side, we have 23 tribal nations. This introduction will also go over the passage in 2023 of the New Mexico Voting Rights Act that was signed into law by our Governor Grisham. The really amazing thing about the New Mexico Voting Rights Act is that included in the bill was the first in the nation's Native American Voting Rights Act. So on the New Mexico side, we have our own electoral section entitled Native American Voting Rights Act. And the purpose is to expand and protect the voting rights of citizens on our sovereign nations. NAVA's spent many years advocating to ensure that tribal communities had access to fair elections, and this is one of the biggest things that we've been moving forward. NAVA has been in existence since the 1990s. We came together to protect our petroglyphs on the west side from expansion. And so we've been working on voting rights pretty much since the early 90s. So this kind of gives a little bit information about what has happened there. There's some information here about how you can have poll workers in your communities. We know that if we have workers from our communities at the polls, that it's much easier for our elders to vote, for our disabled community, and it's much easier for us to have language translation. Part of the Native American Voting Rights Act on the New Mexico side, I'm going to just go over there really quickly here. There's a couple of key provisions that are really amazing. One is that the president of the of the Navajo Nation has the ability to say, you know, Eastern Navajo, here's your address for your voters. All they have to do is designate which addresses they want on the New Mexico side for the different regions of our Navajo Nation voters to have a specific address. And then either the Navajo Nation Office of the President and or the local chapters can get that information to the Secretary of State's office. The Secretary of State will then make sure that the county clerks in those areas recognize that official address. So, you know, instead of drawing a map on the back of your voter registration form, we just need to get our chapter house officials and our president to designate an address for the different regions in the state of New Mexico. And then make sure our community members know that. So I come from Sanasti, so we can basically just say, here is our address for Sanasti chapter, and anybody that is affiliated with that chapter house can use that address to register to vote. The other thing is that they mandated that language access is a part of what we as Native voters need to make sure that we can vote at every election. So the county clerks are aware of that. And if you and your community need to make sure that there are people to translate, there is support. And if you need additional support, if they're not listening, please give us a call because we can help you out with that. They have plans to vote here. There's a lot of really good information on here. There's some other resources that you can have access to. So that is available at our office or if you email me. And if we can put up the 4-page plan to vote, I will go ahead and go through some of the dates that we have here. So let me go to the front here. This is also available, and we can send this to you to print, or you can again pick them up from our office to have some copies for you. This is usually what we have some of our leads provide directly to the community. And if you email me right now, we still have some community lead jobs available. So I'll say that again. If you are on a Navajo community living there and affiliated with a chapter house, and you want to be able to get out the vote in your community and distribute these types of information within your community, please contact us because we can help hire you to do that. The deadlines here for New Mexico, there's cute little QR codes. So if someone in your community has this, they can just use their phone to access all of this information. Online voter registration in New Mexico ends October 8th at 5 p.m. We do have same day registration in New Mexico, so you can always go to a polling location and register same day. There's also information on how to vote absentee. In New Mexico, with the passage of the New Mexico Voting Rights Act, there is now a permanent absentee ballot list. What that means is instead of you and your Chase and your grandmas trying to find a phone to access that every time it's election year, you can literally ask to be on that absentee list and they will just automatically mail you that ballot. The request for this year needs to be accepted by October 22nd. And any of your mailed ballots do have to have that postmarked of the 5th date. But in New Mexico, we always ask you that if you have not mailed your ballot prior to Halloween, that you hand deliver it to your polling location. If you do want to vote early in person, you can find out those locations at nmvote.org. And again, those early location sites will start to show up around October 8th through November 2nd. One of the other things that was written out and given to tribal nations is the ability to make sure that they can dictate when and where they want to have those early polling locations for their community. So again, you can do this at the local chapter house level, or that can be something that the larger Navajo Nation and the office of the president can do for your state. This is the 3rd page of that pamphlet. Again, it just has that information about early person, in-person voting, absentee by mail, and election day. And then on the back of it, we just have our plan to vote. We know that if you make a plan to vote, that a lot of our folks will go ahead and move forward with voting. This is the information that you need to vote. On the side of New Mexico, in order to register, you will need a valid photo ID and or a current utility bill, bank statement, paycheck, or student ID that has your address associated with it. You do not need an ID, however, when it's time to vote. As long as you are on the registration rolls, they will allow you to vote without an ID. if you do plan to vote same day, then you need to have that ID and or that utility bill with your address so that they can allow you to vote. The other thing that I have on here, I'm not sure if it's available to show, but we also have a poster that you can pick up that you can post in your communities. And that poster just basically shows all of the information in the printouts here so that you can post that and anyone in your community can just go ahead and access that. So this is a great thing to have in any of our tribal areas, tribal buildings, those types of stuff. We've actually sometimes we'll print these smaller so that people can put it in, their elder food deliveries, what have you, so people have this information. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is NAVA and NM Native Vote, which is our partisan C4, has started what is called a Snag the Vote campaign. We figured for this election, we wanted to have some fun and get people to vote. So a part of that coalition is Arizona Native Vote over in K-Town. We have Phoenix Indian Center that's a part of that as well. Utah Voter Project. So all of these are on the Navajo Nation. In addition, nationally on Turtle Island, we have Western Native Voice, which is in Montana. North Dakota Native Vote, Get Out the Native Vote Alaska, California Native Vote, Indigenous Idaho Alliance, and Native Vote Vegas. So these are just some of the members that we have in our Snag the Vote campaign. We will be hosting a Get Out the Vote event next Friday at the Heard Museum for First Fridays. So we encourage you to join us. But as we close out, I just wanted to share with you one of the videos that our partner Western Native Voice has put together. You can follow us at @SnagTheVote on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook to get more information. But if we can go ahead and share the video, I'd love to close with that because we just want to bring the joy and the fun back to making sure that our voices are heard and that we are represented in votership. So if we can just go ahead and show that video, that would be great.
Yeah. Foreshadow. Western Native Voice, you gotta snag that vote. What you gonna do when you lost all hope? You at the end of your rope, you gotta snag that vote. Wanna make a change but you don't know the aim? Go pick up your snag and just snag that vote. Want your voice is heard but can't seem to find words? Just pick up your girl and go snag that vote. What you gotta do, just snag that vote. Yeah, what you gotta do, just snag that vote. Check it out, we're snatching up the power. Every single vote, kinda like a wildflower in a ballot booth. It's where we lay it down, snag that vote. Go and wear it like a crown. This ain't just a fling, it's a lifelong thing. Democracy's a song and we all gotta sing. From the elders to the youth, we're building a nation. Every vote counts, it's our new sensation. What you gonna do when you lost all hope? You at the end of your rope, you gotta snag that vote. Wanna make a change but you don't know the aim? Go pick up your snag and just snag that vote. Want your voice is heard but can't seem to find words? Just pick up your girl and go snag that vote. What you gotta do, just snag that vote. Yeah, what you gotta do, just snag that vote. We're linking up together, making history. Our ancestors fought, now it's you and me. In the line at the polls, we deep in conversation, snagging up our rights with fierce determination. No more standing on the sidelines, we take a stand. Vote for our future, every woman, every man. From the plains to the peaks, we're casting our say in the land of the free. It's the native way. What you gonna do when you lost all hope? You at the end of your rope, you gotta snag that vote. Wanna make a change but you don't know the aim? Go pick up your snag and just snag that vote. Want your voice is heard but can't seem to find words? Just pick up your girl and go snag that vote. What you gotta do, just snag that vote. Yeah, what you gotta do, just snag that vote. Snag that vote. Snag that vote. Snag that vote. Snag that vote.
So now y'all know what you need to do. Get out there and snag that vote.
Thank you. That is a great video. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Just wanted to ask a couple follow-up questions. These are boring, not as exciting as your materials, but just to confirm, for a valid photo ID for New Mexico voters, they have to show that when they register, either when they do it ahead of time or on election day. And I just will do Navajo tribal IDs as a valid form of identification for that purpose?
They are. If you wanted to, not sure why we're double. There we go. If you want to vote online, you need to have a driver's license because that's how it's set up. If you go to a county clerk's office to vote in person, or if you do it same day, you can use your tribal ID and or something that has your New Mexico address.
Okay, so just need that address form. As long as the ID has the address on it, it should be a valid address form of ID. Great. And then, does New Mexico accept Google Plus codes for addressing purposes?
On the New Mexico side, they are learning to do that a little bit better, but what we have done with some of our registration forms, we've written that in the space on the form where you can draw a map. And so we've had a few folks that have been able to successfully register that way, but we haven't tried it en masse to see if that is completely effective, but we haven't had anybody who's registered that way tell us that it did not work.
Do you happen to know if any of the counties on the that the Navajo Nation resides in, have they accepted it?
I think it is set up through the Secretary of State's office on what they can and cannot accept. So as long as they have some form of address on the form itself, it won't get kicked back. But if people have issues with that, I would love to hear about it. I know we're really supportive of Utah's voter project and getting all of those Google codes out there. So this is definitely something that we've tried, but we haven't vetted fully.
And then last question, if you want to confirm your voter registration in New Mexico, where are some good resources that people can look to see if if they are properly registered and like what precinct they may be placed in?
So there's a couple of ways that you can do that. You can visit our website, which is naeva.org, and you can scroll down, and we have a couple of hyperlinks that'll take you to the exact spot on the Secretary of State's website. The other way that you can do that is you can go to nmvote.org, so NM like New Mexico, vote.org, and it's a larger website with a lot of information, so sometimes it's a little bit overkill, which is why on our website we just have the little links so that you can go directly to them.
Yeah. And then I assume they can call their county clerks, right? And they should provide them that information as well.
And on our tribal toolkits, we have all of the information for every single New Mexico side county clerk. So I shared them with you all here. I'd be happy to forward those PDFs, but please send me an email if you want any copies of all of these things. And we'll have a lot of swag at our event in Phoenix next Friday if anybody wants to come in and see us.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Also, I really appreciate your sharing the information. So, and just to add, you can also register with Google Plus codes in Arizona as well. So I think now all 3 states will accept those as for proof of residency. So we're very excited about that. If only Navajo Nation would accept them, but we're getting there. We'll get there. Okay, I know. All right, so let's move on to our last presenter. We have Mr. Mac McDonald from San Juan County, Utah. He is we're happy to have you, Mr. McDonald, and he's going to provide us some information about how to register to voting on our Utah side. So, yes, the Navajo Nation is in Utah for all of you guys out there. We are a part of Utah, so we are very excited to have our Utah members register to vote as well. So, Mr. McDonald?
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate the previous presentations. So hopefully from this Lunch and Learn, everybody's learning a lot, but I'm excited to be here, grateful for the opportunity to kind of explain the Utah process here. Everything is kind of overseen by our county clerk auditor, who is Lyman Duncan. He kind of oversees the election process here in San Juan County and over our awesome 7 chapters that are within the Navajo Nation. With our registration, it's fairly easy process. We do have the online access where you can go to vote.utah.gov. It seems like every state kind of has this registration place online that you can go and register there, or you go to vote.gov. If you can't find your state, there's a drop down list that for all of the states where you can go in and register online. A couple of key important dates that I think it's important to throw out there here in Utah, which was touched on the other states, is for here, registration by mail and online. The deadline for the mail and online registration is October 25th. That's an important one to also note, that it's kind of touched on previously in other presentations, that is the date that it has to be received by the clerk auditors here in Utah. So make sure you mail them in advance of that October 25th, at least if you're using the mail. You can still go online, but I know that our chapters here in Utah, a lot of them don't have online access. So just as a reminder, get that mailed in previous to October 25th, depending on which post office you're using, which location you're coming from, so that it's actually received by that date and can be entered into the process. Here in Utah, we also go out to our chapters. Beginning on October 5th, we will be starting to make our chapter presentations, where we will go chapter by chapter and offering opportunities for individuals to register, filling out the paper registration forms. So we'll have them at the chapter locations. We also have 3 polling locations within the Navajo Nation. We have the Montezuma Creek area, Monument Valley, and Navajo Mountain, where we will start to set up polling locations where you can come on in person and actually register beginning on those dates after October 5th. If you have questions on the registration documents themselves, you can come in and talk to our polling staff that will be there. We will have Navajo translators there and interpreters that will be able to interpret the language on the registration forms. If there's any confusion, they'll also be able to answer any questions that you may have. Or if you attend your chapter meetings, when our staff go around and present on the elections, they'll have the registration documents with them. If you have questions of them, you can ask it of them during their chapter meetings. And so that'll be a little bit helpful there. Do know, and it's similar, it's kind of been mentioned, and I don't want to be repetitive, but we do here accept the Google Plus codes. If you're not familiar with the Google Plus code, it works in the form of an address. And so if you have Google on your phone, or if you can download Google Maps onto your phone, wherever you're located on there, you have an option as you scroll down on the Google map, it'll show your Google Plus code. And that's what everybody's referring to on accepting Google Plus codes as an address. And so just check out your Google Maps. Now, a lot of places here in Utah don't have self-service, and we understand that as well. That Google Maps can open up. It's similar. I don't know if this is kind of a generation thing. If you know how to do a pin on a Google map, so if you go in and you press your Google map and it presses where you're located at, that'll show a Google Plus code on your location, or that pin that can work as an address for that Google Plus code. And so that's when you hear that term Google Plus code. That's really what that is about. It's going to Google Map, looking up your location or your pin, clicking on it and scrolling down to find what your Google Plus code is. We do accept that as a form of address here in San Juan County, and can use that. Just the importance, I think, that I'd like to express to you today is, we know that there are individuals that are out there that aren't registered to vote. If you have registered in the past, you can go to that same location, vote.utah.gov. You can find your registration on there to make sure that you're registered. If you're not, then that's when you need to come in and get registered. If your address has changed, your name's changed, things like that Natalia mentioned earlier. So similar with us. I think one of the things that I'd like to express is just the importance of getting out and voting. We know that there's a lot of teenagers that may have graduated or have turned 18 that aren't registered to vote. And so if you know somebody that fits that, please just express the importance of getting out and registering to vote. We need as many people out there kind of championing the cause. I appreciate the previous video to get out and get registered and participate in this right that we have in this country. And so we need help to get, especially our youth, the ones that are 18 and older, to get registered. It seems like we're seeing a trend where these younger generations feel less and less empowered and connected to these opportunities and rights that we have. Other than that, that's kind of where we're at. That we will, as we go out to the chapters, we will accept the in-person after that deadline. We also, on election day, you can still come out and register to vote that day. You just have to have the proper forms of ID, which have been mentioned earlier in previous presentations. If you have any questions, our polling locations, our employees will be out there to help you, or you can call the county clerk auditor's office. Their phone number is 435-587-3225. They'll be able to also assist you over the phone.
Thank you, Mac. So good. And just a couple of follow-up questions. So when you guys start going out to the chapters on October 5th, you're going to visit all 7 Navajo chapters in Utah, correct? Great.
Yep.
That's awesome. Some beautiful Utah chapters.
Yes.
And then just to go over just to confirm, what documents will people need to provide to be able to register to vote? It sounds like it's maybe similar to some of the other states where they need a photo ID. Is that correct?
Or passport, or your citizen card there.
Okay. And then let's say I should have asked the other presenters too, but we'll kind of use our example. Let's say you've moved to Utah recently, and so you have an ID, but it's not a Utah ID. What do you need to provide to be able to register to vote if you're coming in from another state?
It would still be a valid form of ID. It's really about IDing the person to make sure they're a U.S. citizen, and so that would still be valid. Or if you have, same with a passport isn't necessarily restricted to one state. It's for the whole entire U.S., and so it just shows the citizenship.
Okay. And if I wanted to register with my passport, do I need to bring proof of address along with that passport?
Your Google Plus code works perfect.
Okay. And if you don't have a Google Plus code, just like I think with the other states, utility bill would be accepted, right? Bank statement.
Absolutely. Yep. Google Plus codes are pretty easy. Literally, you just go to Google Map and you find where your house is and you pin it and it'll pop up with that Google Plus code. Super easy.
Great. Is there any other documents or anything else that people need to bring to you when they register? Okay.
Just the form. And then if they don't have the form, we will have access there to the forms, everything on site.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Mac. We appreciate you joining us. We appreciate our Utah peeps. So thanks for
come to our 7 chapters. Seriously, it's like being in heaven.
Yeah. Oh, and then sorry, really quickly, what are the 3 chapters that will be polling locations? I know this isn't registration focused, but just so Utah people know.
So you have the Montezuma Creek, and then you have Monument Valley and Navajo Mountain.
Okay. Great. And you will be able to register at those locations on election day.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for joining us. This has hopefully been helpful in providing some information, depending on which state you're living in, what you guys need to do to register to vote. We got some I think our hardest date is with just like with everything, is our Arizona partners, right? October 7th. So luckily, if you're a New Mexico or Utah voter, try to register before, but if you can't, you are allowed to register to vote on election day. And so really for our Arizona peeps, October 7th, guys, you guys got a hard date unfortunately, you guys got a hard date of October 7th, but hopefully all our Arizona voters will be able to get their registrations in by then. So, and then the Navajo Department of Justice is just a kind of reminder, is always just like our presenters, we're here to help. And if you guys are experiencing any difficulties in registering or have any additional questions, you can contact the Navajo Nation Department of Justice and specifically the Economic Community Development Unit. We do try to work collaboratively with all our counties and our organizations. So we're happy to assist if there are any issues that come up, and feel free to feel free to view our website, our Navajo Nation DOJ website, for more information. And then I think, just to echo what I think everybody has already stated, right, and especially that awesome video, is that it's just really important for Navajos to participate in federal and state elections. I think that everyone here would agree that Navajos really have a strong voice in state and federal elections, and that they can really, especially in the state, in places like Arizona and New Mexico, Navajo votes can really change the outcome of elections. So we hope that everyone feels empowered about participating in this process, and that everyone feels like they have the tools needed to participate in the process. And if you cannot, and the Department of Justice also is here to help as well. So with that, I'll just sign off, and everyone have a great rest of your Friday.